Yo, it's Zero, and today I bring you guys the full movie of What If Deku Had Liebe. I hope you all enjoyed the series if you have watched parts 1 through 5, but this is just for those who want to watch it all in one part. But if you are a returning viewer that just viewed this video, thanks for coming back. And if you're new to my channel or just haven't already, make sure to like the video and subscribe, as I make content like this all the time. But drop down some comments on what you think my next series for My Hero Academia should be. And without any more wait, let's get started.
Let's get it. I'm a trapping fanatic, that shit automatic, so I cannot turn it on or off. Bitches all on my dick, then she hop on my dick. I'm like, why you keep hopping on and off? Yo, bitch all on my dick, she be doing the most. I tell her, little bitch, she so extra. And my gun up on me, but not run up on me. Niggas, they wanna fight, they some wrestlers. And you know 30K got the mop. Sacked up, yeah, I got them knots. Act up, get your body in a box. Told the demon, you know how.
So, to make this happen, I want to change Midoriya's backstory a lot here actually. Months after the birth of her firstborn son, pro hero Inko Midoriya was being chased down by a strange man. She had thought she had managed to escape him, and she would go home. Unknowingly to her, this man was already within her home, and as she walked in, she saw her babysitter dead on the floor while this man was holding her baby. She wanted to move, but she couldn't. It was too much of a risk right now. This strange man, who we all knew is All For One, would place his hand on the head of Midoriya, changing his quirk. Only seconds after this was done, a necklace appeared around the small baby with a glowing book as its pendant. All For One then noticed that the child was no longer in his possession, so using her quirk, she was able to grab her son and she ran out of the front door. So, the chase begins once again, I see. Inko jumped from roof to roof as fast as she could, and then she saw a small orphanage within her city. Quickly, she jumped to the ground and she left her son at the front steps, leaving only a note with his first name. Then she led her pursuer, All For One, far away from this area as she could, as this is where she would be killed. But in her final moments, she decided to declare that one day her son would defeat All For One. Skipping ahead about 6 years, when Izuku was at school, he was being bullied for being an orphan. The main person who was doing so was a blonde kid named Bakugo who had always picked on him. This time though, Bakugo wanted to take it to another level. Hey guys, let's take away the one thing that this orphan has. Hey nerd, hand over the necklace. No, I can't. It's mine. I was told that my mother left it for me by my friends at the orphanage. You idiot. Orphans don't have mothers. That's why they're orphans. Tears then began to shed on his face while looking up at Bakugo, who was getting closer and closer. The blonde pushes him to the ground and grabs the necklace. No, please stop. Don't take it. It's all I have. Please, Bakugo. Whatever. It's gonna be mine now. As he pulls harder, it won't come off of his neck or snap for some reason. So he decides to grab the book-like pendant instead. As he grips it, well, a red aura appears around the book and it pushes Bakugo away. Izuku then gets the random strength to stand up, and the book that was around his neck vanishes as a larger version of it would appear in front of him, as the 5 clovers will be revealed as the red aura glows around him. And then, something calls to him. Something calls to Izuku, who then places his hand through the book, going inside of it. As he pulls his hand out and raises it into the sky, a small sword would appear, and the transformation would begin. On his right side, darkness begins spreading, covering his arm completely, and then his eye on that side would turn red as well, along with horns and wings. A strange aura is then emitted from his body, causing Bakugo to back away even further away from him. What are you? You're a demon! As Izuku begins to step closer and closer to Bakugo, the teacher runs out just in time to save him and stop Izuku, who would be sent home shortly after. And since this was his first time that he actually used his quirk, well, he would be taken to the quirk doctor for an analysis of it, as it was pretty strange. After running a couple tests, the doctor comes back to Izuku's legal guardian, Terra, and then explains to her, well, his quirk is actually quite special. It can increase all of his physical stats, and it can also negate other quirks. Well, the ones that we tested so far. The name we've classified it as is negation. However, with the appearance of a demon, we'd also like to use that as a nickname for it as well. 6 years then go by as Izuku continues to train with only one goal in mind. Since the orphanage he lived in, well, it's low on money now, he wants to become a pro hero to help his adopted family, financially that is. We then start at his last year of junior high. As the teacher walks into the classroom, it's silent, as he then speaks to break the silence. Since it's your last year here, you all need to start thinking about your future and what you want to become. Oh, who am I kidding? You all want to become pro heroes, don't you? The class then erupts in enjoyment and excitement, but Izuku stayed silent until someone had spoken out against all of this. It was Bakugo. Well, Teach, you would be right, but someone in this room is gonna end up a villain. Bakugo then points at Izuku. Akuma means devil, and that's your nickname, so how can you become a hero with a power like that? No one wants to be saved by a devil. Izuku stands up and Bakugo flinches, remembering the power of Akuma from long ago. Go ahead, show them all that you're truly a devil, Akuma. Izuku, or Akuma, walks towards Bakugo and lands a punch to his stomach that knocks the blonde to the ground in pain. Shut your mouth. I'll become a hero way better than you. Yeah, right. Izuku then pushes him fully to the ground and walks out of the classroom, going to the roof of the building on his own. As he sits on the rooftop, his phone then begins to ring. It's Terra, the woman who raised him and the foster mother at the orphanage. Izuku, please come quick, as fast as you can to the orphanage. We're in trouble. Before she could even finish, the phone line was cut short. Izuku panics as he runs out of the school, pushing people out of the way to get to the main road, as he then begins his journey back to his home. When he makes it to the orphanage, it's surrounded by police cars, fire trucks, pro heroes, you name it. Everyone was there. Izuku tries to go in, but the adults push him away and tell him it's too dangerous. He then looks around the crowd, and he sees Terra. He walks over to her as she would explain that all of the kids are safe except for one. This is when they all hear the scream. In the window of the orphanage, he could see Zenon, one of the smartest kids there, crying while being held by a slug-like monster. Rage, anger, even hatred filled Izuku's body as he remembered all the good times that the two of them have shared, and he couldn't control himself any longer. His transformation was then present as he speeds into the building, causing all the windows to break just from how fast he was moving. The slug monster was then cut in half, which frees Zenon. You're safe now. I knew you'd come, big brother. Of course I would. Now get out of here as fast as you can. Right. Don't think you're getting away so fast, brat, the slug-like monster would say while trying to grab Zenon. But Izuku jumps in the way, deflecting the sand. Well, deflecting the... I don't know what you'd call it. Well, he deflected the attack with his sword, pushing the monster back as he then looks at it and sends it out of the building, creating a hole into the street where all the pro heroes can now see it. But before any of them could react, someone would yell out. I am here, the pro hero would say as he smashes the villain into pieces, causing the jaws of everyone in the area to drop. The number one hero, All Might, lands on the ground, looking back up at the hole in the orphanage to see a demonic boy as well. Ah, I see he had an accomplice. Well, don't worry, I'll deal with him too. Izuku looks down and sees All Might rushing up at him, but he's quickly able to block the attack with his sword, taking no damage at all as it was negated. Wait, you're All Might. Ah, so even the villains know my name. That's good. But this is when Izuku releases his power, explaining that he's the one who helped save his little brother in the first place. All Might here would actually congratulate the boy and tell him about UA and becoming a hero. Izuku puts his head down, saying that there's no way for a demon like him to get into that type of prestigious school. However, All Might pushes for the idea, telling him that anyone determined enough can become a proper hero, but they have to train and get the right help first. Izuku takes this to heart, as now his goal is set on the UA entrance exam. I feel like we can just skip ahead to that day. Just know, for the months leading up to the exam, Izuku trained harder than ever as well as trained in his studies. But I don't want him to interact with Liebe until we're further in this video, so make sure you stay around until then. On the day of the exam, Izuku walks to the entrance of UA, looking at the well-built school. As he was admiring its beauty, someone bumped into his shoulder and walked past him. The blonde turned around and revealed himself as Bakugo, who only chuckled at the thought of Izuku even trying to be here right now. Another thing that I may have forgot to mention was that his name, well, he only had one name, Izuku, not his family name Midoriya, as his mother did this to protect him from All For One at all costs. Izuku continued to walk forward with more confidence than his canon counterpart, and this would lead to him not tripping. He walks and takes a seat once he's inside. Here is where President Mike explains the practical exams to everyone there, and this time, Ida didn't make any comments about Izuku. This version of Izuku was still smart, but just not a hero fanboy like the original. We later got to the part of the exam that had the robots, as President Mike explains the rule and then he's silent. Izuku transforms quickly and then flies over the crowd, confusing them all, but as he was doing so, Bakugo yelled out his nickname, Akuma! This caused all the other contestants or students there to pause and realize that Izuku was some sort of demon. Back with our main character, he flew through the robots, demolishing them with ease, as none of them could stop his blade. His strength far exceeded human limitations, along with his speed and precision, as well as his strategy, which wasn't too far behind at all. Izuku slices through another robot and begins his inner monologue here. Another one down. At this rate, I might even come in the top 5. It seems there are less and less robots over here, so maybe Help! A voice would cry out. Izuku turns his head to see a boy with purple balls on his head. Pause. Who was about to be crushed by falling rocks. Mineta closed his eyes, expecting to die at this very moment. However, all he could see in front of him when he opened them was Izuku, who swung his blade with such force that it not only cut the rocks that were falling down, but sent shockwaves through the whole area. Hey, are you alright? He would hold out his hand and help Mineta up. I know you're trying to go all out, but try to be a little more careful. Izuku then dashed off to find more robots, leaving his peers speechless at what had just happened. Most of the robots at this time were already taken out, and the students were beginning to get tired as well. As Izuku powers down, he noticed that a girl had fallen to the ground as he would jog over. Hey, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine, it's just a cut. Oh, that's good. Still, let me help you. I'm Izuku. Hi, I'm Uraraka. As the two smile at one another from behind her, Izuku sees a robot rushing towards them. As fast as he can, he pushes her out of the way, and he takes the full force of the attack, which sends him into a pile of sharp metal. Uraraka looks up in horror to see that Izuku was unconscious and had been impaled. Quickly, she looks around for the robot to try to finish it off that had just attacked them. But as she looks down, it was on the ground and powered off, and it was missing its main power source. Because as Izuku was hit, he managed to rip it out just in time. Uraraka then runs over looking at Izuku. "Hey Izuku, stay with me. We're gonna get you help, don't worry. The test is over now, so don't worry about your score either." However, this test was far from over. The ground began to shake, as if an earthquake was happening in this area. This is when the 0-point robot was revealed. Uraraka looked up at Izuku, who, well, he was stuck in their path. "I'll get you out of here with my quirk, don't worry." Izuku's eyes then opened once again. It's okay," a weak voice would say. Save yourself, Uraraka. Don't worry about me." She starts to cry at the thought of leaving someone who just risked his life to save her own. Another student runs by and drags her away by her wrist as she holds out her arm, watching as the 0-point bot's foot got closer and closer to Izuku. In this moment, time itself stood very still. Izuku closed his eyes, cursing his fate. I can't let it end here. What about the orphanage? What about Zenon? I can't let them all down. I have to become a hero. This is my one and only chance. I just need a little bit more power. Izuku then opened his eyes, surprised, waking up in a red room with a black figure that stood in front of him as he was floating. "So, what you need is power. Well, seeing as I can't let you die yet, I'll grant you just that. The real question is, are you ready to sacrifice your own body for this power? I don't care. As long as this power can heal me and give me enough power to defeat my opponent, it doesn't matter. I'll pay the price to live on right now." "As you wish, boy, but the road you walk now will be much harder." The darkness then surrounds the room and covers Izuku's body fully. Time then continues on the outside, and Uraraka watches as the robot's foot completely stomps on Izuku. No! Everyone and everything stood silent as many realized what had just happened. Erupting from the knee of the robot emerged a black figure who soared into the sky, leaving a trail of a black aura. Izuku was in a new form that we have not got to see yet, as more black markings covered his top half, and he now had 2 horns and wings, as a red glow was also present around his body. So, this is the power I gained from giving my body away. Well, I don't know how much time I have, so let's test how much I can do. We left off with the Kuma soaring off into the skies with a new power granted by the devil within him. So, this is what I get in exchange for trading off my body, huh? And since you were the catalyst, I believe it's only fair to go all out right here and now. From here on out, I'll be referencing Izuku by his nickname in this timeline, unless someone else calls him by his real name, or the situation calls for it. Akuma rushes back down towards the large robot, and it swung its fist towards him. He easily evaded and dragged his blade along its metal arm, slicing it open while leaving a trail of explosions behind him. "You're all mine now. Negation slash." The eyes of Akuma glowed bright as a black aura was launched off of his blade, splitting the gigantic robot in half. Akuma smiled, but the power of Liebe would soon vanish, forcing him to fall to the ground at high speeds. Luckily for him, Uraraka was able to touch his face just in time so that he wouldn't hit the ground and die. The alarms would then go off, meaning that the test was now over. Kuma lays on the ground for a moment before standing back up and thanking Uraraka for saving him. "It was no problem. I'm glad that you're safe, Izuku, but what was that power you used?" "I actually don't know. It just sort of happened. I have no idea how I did it, But I'll see you at school if we make it, you know? Yeah, see you then. As Izuku was walking away, she then noticed that all the holes in his body were healed. The two then go their separate ways and days would go by. One day, as Tara was going through the mail for all the kids, she then stumbles across a letter from UA, dropping all the other mail that she held in her hand as she would then start to cry, calling down everyone and Izuku himself to open it. Izuku is actually surprised that he made it in, thinking he didn't do too well. And when he opens it up, the letter becomes a holographic message from All Might. Young Izuku, you've proved yourself more than worthy enough to have the potential to become a great hero, and this is the first stepping stone towards that goal. Welcome to UA High School. Zenon, Yuno, and even Tara, and plus all the other kids, hug Izuku and start to cry. At this point, he was crying as well, just because he got in. Maybe devils can become heroes, he would think. After they settled down, Zenon then turns to Izuku. Hey big brother, what score did you get? They look back at it and are all shocked to see that Izuku came in first place with his villain score at 95 and his rescue score at 80. Now that he thinks about it, he technically did save 2 people. There will be a waiting period for the new semester to start, but we'll just skip to when it's his first day. He walks to the school as he has no money for public transport, but he was used to it by now, and his body was completely toned just for doing things like this. When he arrived, the press was outside the school to get a look at the new students, but since he was kind of unknown, they didn't even notice him as he was able to get in, which was good for him because he wasn't the best public speaker. He finds his class after some time and then walks in. The first person to notice him was Uraraka. So, we both made it in. Isn't that cool? Yeah, it is. Akuma! A voice would yell as it got closer and closer. Akuma turns around to see Bakugo looking at him. I'll rip you to shreds for coming to my school. Akuma here then thinks to make a change. He no longer wants to be bullied by Bakugo, and this could be a fresh start for him. So, he has to make the change happen himself. Shut your mouth. With an attitude like that, you won't become a hero either. Akuma then turns his head to talk to everyone else while Bakugo would stand in shock. Anger then surges through the body of Bakugo as he grabs Akuma and tries to use his quirk. But Akuma's hand completely turns black as he negated Bakugo's quirk. I think you forgot your place. Akuma picks up Bakugo and slams him into the ground, shaking the whole room and surprising those within it. While they waited on their teacher, a lot of the students would ask Akuma about his quirk since he did just show it off a little bit right now. He then explains his necklace and his pendant. They all call it cool, and then another student will walk up to Akuma. It was Mineta, and he thanked him for saving his life. Don't sweat it. I'm just glad that you're safe. Anyway, where's our teacher? He should be here by now. They all look around the room and eventually find a yellow sleeping bag on the ground. A man would then get out of it stretching. Great. Now that all of you have shut your mouth, I can begin. I'm your homeroom teacher. Call me Mr. Aizawa. You all are in this class because you've exceeded what was normal for our usual freshmen. But don't think just because you're at the top right now doesn't mean you won't be kicked to the bottom by someone else in the future. So, suit up and meet me outside. Aizawa waits for his class, and then once they come, he explains the quirk apprehension test, as they would start with the ball throw, and he tosses it to Akuma, as he was first up since he did score the highest in this timeline, and he was wondering how he was going to do it. You said I can use my quirk, right? But can I go all out? Yeah, but make it quick, hotshot. Sure thing. The book around his neck then begins to glow a bright red as Akuma's arm changes into its demonic-like state as he then holds the ball in his hand. Negation blast. Suddenly a huge blast of red and black energy leaves his hand, carrying the ball into the sky. As I was a little shocked, as he shows the distance to the rest of the class as it was around 1,000 kilometers. They go through the rest of the tests as usual, and Izuku comes in the top 3 of each one, proving to them why the entrance exam wasn't a fluke and he belongs here, as he did score the highest on both tests. At the end of the day, Akuma is walking out of UA and Uraraka yells out his name. "Hey Izuku, you wait for me. You're heading to the train station, right?" "Train station? What do you mean?" "I walk to school, Uraraka." "How far do you live from here?" "About 7 miles, I think." "Really? So you walked this morning? How come?" Akuma then explains the situation to Uraraka and why he wants to become a hero. The two would sympathize with one another as both of their families need money. After this, they each head home in their separate way, and meanwhile, within the school of UA, many of the admin and teachers were reviewing footage from the exams, specifically Izuku's transformation towards the end of the exams. Before he transforms, they can see a black silhouette kind of close to his body, as if it was standing next to him, and it looked as though it was talking to him. And then it jumped back into his body, causing a transformation to then happen again. They can't really make it out what it is, but they understand that it has something to do with the book that was placed around his neck, as there's no other quirk on record from all the histories of quirks that has had this sort of book. Principal Nezu then explains to Aizawa to keep an eye on Izuku, as he may be someone that they need in the future. Based on the description of his quirk, it may be even more powerful than Aizawa's. The next day, most of their classes will go on as normal, just the basic hero studying and training. Well, until they were in a classroom waiting on a teacher to arrive. All Might slides into the room with his hero suit on as he announces for them to suit up for the combat training or battle training on ground level. And here, since Akuma doesn't have Inko, his suit would look a little different. This time around, it would be a black and red jumpsuit with armor plates on certain parts of it. To make it easier for you to imagine, think of Asta's first Devil Union mode, but just a slimmer version of that. They all head down in their suits, and Kirishima is the first to notice Akuma's armor. Whoa, that's pretty badass, man. It's kinda like my quirk, as I can harden myself, but that looks like it's gonna be heavy. Well, my sword is the heaviest piece, and I'm so used to it by now that it's really nothing. Where? Can you show me real quick? I'm sure it's not that heavy. Sure, but don't hurt yourself. Akuma summons his grimoire to appear right in front of him, as he then pulls the blade out of it, and he hands it over to Kirishima, who falls on the ground trying to hold it up. A bunch of the male students would walk over and try to pick it up, but they can't, which causes All Might to walk over as well. He's able to pick it up, but he notices that his power is getting weaker and weaker, so he gives it to Akuma and tells him to be a little more careful with his other students and not to let them touch it. Akuma smiles, nodding, as the teams will now be picked, and I don't think I'm going to change any of them. The villains of the first match would be Bakugo and Ida, while the heroes will be Izuku and Uraraka. We later see the two of them walking around the halls. So, do you have a plan, Izuku? Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's going to be a 2 versus 1. Well, it's going to be a 2 versus 1 fight. Bakugo is definitely going to try to come and fight me on his own. So, just wait for me to beat Bakugo, and then we'll go get Ida together. Are you sure you can beat him? Yeah, just have some faith in me. She would smile, and then Akuma hears the voice of someone familiar within his head. Destroy it all. Let your rage go loose. Be the devil that you truly are. Akuma looks around, but can't find anything until he sees it. Don't worry, only you can see and hear me, so try not to make it obvious. But you better watch out. I can sense that he's coming. The devil vanishes back into the book, and Akuma grabs Uraraka, jumping back as the two would now watch Bakugo burst through the roof and slam down to their level. I finally found you, Akuma. Bakugo rushes at him with explosive, propelling him forward, as Akuma then pushes Uraraka again, this time out of the way to the side, as he will create a ball of darkness in front of him. Negation Zone. Darkness then completely surrounds the two of them, and Bakugo falls to the ground, not being able to use his quirk within this area. He turns his head to see the fist of Akuma. Over and over again, Akuma lands heavy-hitting blows to Bakugo. It gets to the point where the devil appears in his dark form with his red eyes staring at Akuma on his side, ordering him to kill Bakugo. But the green-haired boy drops the blonde to the ground, who was slightly unconscious, and Uraraka would watch as the dark zone would disappear. Let's go. Right. They run through the halls, and they realize it's going to take them a long time to reach the top level. So, he cuts through the metal holes and makes a window for Uraraka to float to the top. Wait, so how are you going to get to the top level before me? That's easy. I'll just go all out from this point on. Okay, I'll see you there then. She jumps out and then starts to float up. Akuma then looks at his devil, who was sitting in the room. Let's see it, Akuma. Whatever, just stay out of my way. The devil would hop back into the book as Akuma transforms into his 20% like state and flies through the platforms to where the bomb was. Ida was surprised as he uses his legs to get close and kick Akuma into a wall. But as he kicks Akuma, he drags him to the bottom all the way down to where Bakugo was. By now, all the blonde did was recover, and he was trying to figure out how to get back up, but he was placed into another negation zone. This was different from the last time though, because Akuma wasn't in this zone. It was just Bakugo and Ida. Let's do this. Negation zone, second form, piercing spikes. Spikes and blades would try to stab at Bakugo and Ida, who dodged, while Akuma sat on top of the zone, looking all the way back up to see Uraraka waving at him as she would secure the bomb, meaning that they won and the test was now over. Within the zone, you could hear no sound from the outside, so when they were released, they tried to attack Akuma, but he dodged, explaining how the test was already over. All Might then announced for them to come back to the room so that they could review the fight. When the four make it back, Uraraka and Izuku are congratulated by the pro hero for their excellent work. So, can any of the rest of you tell me why Uraraka and Izuku were so successful? Momo then raised their hand and would explain. It's due to the fact that Izuku was able to isolate the main variable, Bakugo, and force him into an uncomfortable situation where he would have to readjust. I don't exactly know what happened in the Dark Zone as it wasn't on camera, but I imagine that all the quirks within that zone are deactive, and they can't use them, meaning that Izuku's physical strength won him that battle. Going on to the rest of the fights, the two made a plan in the halls and followed through with it perfectly. For a moment, everyone was quiet, realizing how smart she was, but then All Might told her that she was correct. The rest of the training goes on, and after they all go back to the classroom, Akuma would sit down and people would surround his desk. Kirishima spoke first. What manly display of power. But if you did that to me, it might be different because I'm already physically strong. Ashido looks at Kirishima and shakes her head, causing him to wonder why. I don't know, it looks like Izuku has the edge on you there because you can't pick up his sword. Aw, come on, that thing weighs a ton. Even All Might didn't want to pick it up. Give me a break. Anyways, what's up with your quirk? I thought you only had one, but it seems like you have a bunch of stuff you can do with it. Uraraka here walks over to his desk as well, as she was curious, as many other students would follow suit. Akuma then shows them a bigger form of his grimoire. So, this is basically how my quirk works. To keep it simple, I have a negation quirk that can cancel out other quirks. But because of this book, I have techniques that go along with my quirk. The stronger I get, the more techniques are written down within this book. Momo then points something out that all of them realized. What language is this? I've never seen it before. Well, I don't know either, but I can understand it. It's probably because this book is specifically catered to me. Far away from the UA high school, we then see people walking towards a location as they would sit down after walking into a room that we later see is a bar. Sitting down, one of them would scratch his chin. How about we kill the symbol of peace? The next day, Akuma walks to school as usual. This time, there was more reporters than before, as someone come up to him asking about All Might, things like what kind of teacher is he, and a lot of other personal questions. Akuma notices that his demon was sitting on his shoulder. You could wipe them all off the face of the earth right now, you know that? I can't. Just do it. The smaller version of the demon touches his head, causing his eyes to turn red as small horns would start to grow and his teeth would become sharp. Through sheer willpower alone, he's able to control himself and then rush into the school. Instead of heading to his homeroom class, he goes off to find a teacher, which leads him to the pro hero All Might. The pro hero takes Akuma into his office and sits him down. Yes, you needed to see me about something? Yeah, it's about my quirk. Lately, it's been getting out of control, and it's becoming harder and harder for me to maintain myself. Can you tell me a little bit more? Yeah, it's kind of like my power relies on a darker, more mischievous side of me that tries to take over constantly. Well, does that book contain any ways on how to control it, or maybe any hints? Well, I'll take a look, but I've checked it out recently, and there was nothing much in it. Akuma then summons the book, but this time was different. In the presence of All Might, and with the touch of his finger, the book glows a hopeful blue. As the pro hero touches it, he gets flashbacks to All for One. But why would he get those memories now? Does Izuku have some connection to him? All Might then asks, do you know anything about your mother? No, I'm sorry, I've just never met her. Akuma tries to smile, and he makes a face that gives All Might another memory. He tells Izuku to then leave the office, and he heads to his homeroom class. While he tries to figure something out, he calls in Principal Nezu to his office, and the two end up figuring out who his mother was. Pro hero Inko Midoriya. The resemblance was uncanny. Nezu then pulls up a report of her death, as she was killed by One for All. Well, no, she was killed by All for One after fighting him in this area here. He points to the screen, and All Might pulls up the data that they have on Izuku, as they realize his mother died not too far away from the orphanage that he now resides in. On record, it says her quirk was able to push and pull small and large objects, but that has nothing to do with Izuku's. All Might then stands up as the two would look at a picture of Izuku. All for One gave him that quirk, and if he's trying to take over his body using that quirk, All for One must be trying to use him as well. A stressful situation indeed, and now that he's here, there's no way for us to cancel out a quirk that stops other quirks unless we catch him off guard. Within the classroom of 1A, they would decide who their president was. Everyone nominates Izuku, but he declines the offer and says it's not his style, although he'll help when it's needed, which leads to Ida becoming the president and Momo as the vice president. The students then head to lunch soon after, attending some classes, and Akuma looks around for a place to sit after getting his food. As he walks around, he then hears his name being yelled out. Hey Zuku, over here, sit with us. Akuma looks over to see Uraraka, Kirishima, and Ashido. He smiles at the thought of friends, which circulated in his mind. It's not like he had friends at his other school, thanks to Bakugo, but this was a brand new start for him, and this start couldn't be ruined by anything, or at least that's what he thought. The group starts to talk about their quirks, and it makes Akuma nervous. Since they've seen it a couple times, they don't really ask too much about it, which relieves him, as he did explain it a couple times to them. However, this is when the alarms of the school would go off and panic would start in the lunchroom as many of the students begin evacuating. Well, instead of evacuating, Akuma goes to the bathroom during the panic. He goes into a stall and sits down. The demon then showed itself in its black silhouette-like state. So we meet again. Yeah. What's your deal, man? Just let me have my body. The devil then does something that Akuma didn't think was possible. It grabs him by his hair and slams his face into the wall of the stall. We made a deal, remember? Power for your body. Doesn't that ring a bell? And I'd like to claim my side of the deal now. Akuma punches the demon out of the stall with his superhuman strength. So, you can still fight, brat. The demon shows its true form and starts to fight against Akuma. 10 minutes go by as All Might was walking around as he heard loud noises coming from the bathroom. As he walked in after knocking to see the demon and Akuma throwing punches at each other, as All Might knocked both of them out and takes them to the police. Akuma and the devil wake up in a room together with handcuffs on and their hands behind their backs. A detective walks into the room and then sits down. I'm glad to see both of you boys are up. Mind telling me your connections with this man? All for one, as he would slide a picture of him up to the table. Akuma looks at the man in the photo and he's completely confused, while the devil would turn his head. This causes many people to come into the room one after another and interrogate them, but the devil never says anything. It got to the point where one of the detectives would try to hit the devil, but Akuma jumps in the way, taking the fist to the jaw. I'm not going to let you guys hit him and treat him like this. The detective would leave the room and tells All Might that it's pointless, but the pro hero tells him to wait, as it looks like the two are now talking. Why did you do that, brat? Why would you do that after all that I've done? I've tried to take over your body multiple times. Why wouldn't I? After all, you've been with me for so long. Even though you hate me, it's kind of like we're family. Shut your mouth. I was created to use you, not become your family. All Might's eyes would then widen at this statement, as Izuku would question, what do you mean use me? When All For One created me. Once you got older, I was supposed to take over your body and then kill All Might. Akuma paused for a moment. Well, what do you want to do with your life? Huh? Why ask me that? Well, you seem like you don't want to be evil. Do you want to become a hero with me? The devil looked at Akuma confused, and he didn't know what his answer should be, so he didn't answer. Hours go by, as the two were forced to stay in this room, and at night, Akuma woke up to the cries of the devil. The devil saw Akuma was awake, so he decided to finish the story. I was created by All For One, but before that, I was destroyed by him. I was the son of a regular, average family, but I was born with a quirk, a life-changing quirk that would guarantee me and my family a secure future. That is the one that you possess now. I swore upon my death that I would get revenge, but now I'm being used as his pawn. Akuma stood back up and broke his handcuffs with his strength, and then he did the same for the devil. Well, how about I help you out instead? Become stronger with me, and together, we'll destroy All For One. And after that, I promise to set you free and let your soul rest. The devil starts to cry even more, but stands up, shaking the hand of Izuku. My name is Liebe. And you know that means that you won't be able to become a hero after I leave or you set me free. Well, Liebe, I'm glad to have you fully on my side. Becoming a hero, well, once All For One is gone, then I don't have to worry about that, because I'm sure the new generation can handle it without me. As the two smile, the grimoire appeared and flipped to a new page, as it would show both of them. Akuma read it, as it would say, Transformation 1 unlocked? What? Basic stage. I wonder what that is. Liebe then slapped him on the back of the head. You idiot, did you not read it? It's a transformation for you. But it looks like you only have 30 seconds with it, and it has a 10-minute cooldown. Wait, what? Where does it say that? Can you read stuff that I can't read? What are you talking about? Look, it's right here. Liebe would then point at it, but Akuma would see nothing. That's lame. You can read parts that I can't? Well, it looks like we were forced to be partners. Anyway, when do you think we'll get out of here? The day for the UA students would go on as usual, as they would go to the USJ with Hiro, 13, and their homeroom teacher Aizawa. Many of them asked where Izuku was, but even their teacher had no answer until 13 would whisper and explain where Almay had been for the past couple of days. They go into the facility, and as 13 begins to explain each section and what being a hero truly means, all of the students would get excited to start their rescue training. However, villains warp into the area below them at the ground level, and Aizawa jumps down first to confront them. But as he does this, one of the villains warps back to the students and tries to separate them. Suddenly, a black and gray figure with horns and wings stands in the way and sends the villain back. He turns his head, revealing that he was Izuku. "Sorry I'm late. Did I miss anything cool?" Everyone was shocked, as his physical appearance was very different, and where did he come from? However, he turned into his regular green-haired human form shortly after, as Liebe would appear on his shoulder and slapped his face, making him turn a little bit and leaving a little mark. This wouldn't have happened if you wouldn't have taken a wrong turn. Do you even know directions, brat? Yeah, whatever. We made it, so it doesn't matter now. The two then turns their heads to realize that the rest of the class can now see Liebe. The two then say that they'll explain later, as the students would still be warped all over the USJ anyway. Akuma realizes that he's in water, but he's saved by Froppy, who would also grab Mineta out of the water as well. Akuma looks around in the water and realizes that Liebe is not with him. Far away in a different part of the USJ, Liebe was seen with Momo and her group, as Froppy would ask if Izuku can still fight without him, but he stands up smiling, summoning his grimoire, which would appear in front of him. "I assure you I'm more than capable." They would formulate a plan, and they execute it. First, Akuma creates a tornado within the water using one of his spells, which then leads Mineta to throw balls into the water, which would catch the villains, and Froppy would take them off of the boat after, and they get to shore, where they would find an exit. But Akuma wants to go help their teacher, realizing he was fighting more villains than any of them. And when they arrive, all three of them see a bird-like creature crushing their teacher, as Akuma then sees the hand of someone about to touch his face. In a split second, he activated the negation zone, which pushed Froppy and Mineta away from him, and it was only him and Shigaraki within it. Shigaraki would walk to the side of it and touch it, trying to destroy it, but he couldn't. "What is this?" "Don't worry about that. Just know you can't win in here. Well, unless you're physically stronger than me." The Nomu leaves Aizawa on the ground and tries to break the black dome, but each time it hits it, all of his strength quirks, or like superhuman abilities, were nullified. Akuma then looks at Shigaraki, who was still confused, and then punches him in the face. "I've been waiting to hit someone that hard for a long time, so thank you." Shigaraki then tries to use his quirk as he grabs Akuma's wrist, but nothing happens, leading him to get hit by an uppercut which sends him into the air and back down, as eventually Akuma would get tired of beating him up, so he just knocks him out and then releases the barrier, only to see that the Nomu was right there and would attack him. Akuma dodged the attack and flipped over to see Froppy, telling her to grab their teacher and find Liebe so that he can heal him. She nods and hops over the fight, and the Nomu's placed into a negation zone after trying to grab Froppy, and it's with Akuma, but it still proceeds to attack him. However, he's able to keep up without its super speed, but for some reason, Akuma, he can't do any damage. And it looks like the Nomu has multiple quirks, so it's hard for his zone to target the specific one he needs in order to gain and do damage and stop his super speed and strength at the same time, which did give the Nomu an advantage, and Akuma is caught off guard by the creature and slammed into the ground, where his arm was then broken, which forced him to release the zone without his concentration. The Nomu stood over Akuma, and an awakened Shigaraki would yell out to kill the kid now. The Nomu pulls his fist back and prepares to slam it, crushing Izuku's head. but another person who just arrived in time would stop it. All Might stood at the ready to fight the Nomu, and with everything he's got, well, he did give his quirk away, but he hasn't had many encounters, and since he didn't fight the villains, he wasn't as tired, so he is a little stronger. Well, actually, let me think. Okay, actually, he gave his quirk away. I'll keep that. I wrote in my script that he didn't, but I feel like it's more convenient for Mirio to have it already. So, but the pro hero pushes the bird-like creature away from Akuma, who manages to stand and find Liebe via like a telepathic wave. You feel me? Liebe heals Akuma and then hops back on his shoulder in a smaller form. Our 10 minutes are up, so let's go all out, Zuko. Yeah, you're right. Let's go help All Might. The transformation begins as Akuma's skin turns gray and his eyes red, along with darkness covering up most of his body, accompanied with his horns and wings. The Nomu is about to hit All Might in the face, but it's then uppercutted by Akuma in his devil transformation, as Nomu looks up surprised while Akuma would float higher into the air smirking. Akuma floats higher into the air with his new transformation, looking down at the Nomu while smirking. The bird-like creature then attempts to grab the boy. However, All Might lands a ferocious punch that sends it back. Well, it knocks it back a couple steps. This punch was then followed up by a kick to the core by Akuma. The Nomu then grabs Akuma by his leg and holds him. But the boy then shows off a new ability, as Akuma would turn into black smoke and slips through the grasp of the Nomu. And he gets behind it. Using his monstrous strength, he then punches the creature towards All Might as the pro hero looks at it and smiles. Using all his strength that he had left, All Might then sends the Nomu flying into the ceiling of the USJ, causing an explosion, defeating the creature, as the pro hero walks over to Akuma, who was releasing his transformation. So, I take it you don't need to be in custody anymore. Liebe would smile on his shoulder as he raises his fist in the air. We'll be the one to take down All For One before you can. Shigaraki, who was listening, then gets angry and begins to rush towards the tired heroes. But as he sticks out his hand and tries to grab Akuma, a bullet goes through his hand as Shigaraki is then hit with multiple shots that cause him to fall to the ground. Shigaraki is then warped out of the area back to the bar by another villain, as All For One would appear on, what was it? I can't remember. It was like a small little panel that was in the room. You guys know what I'm talking about. But he would appear there and talk to Shigaraki, discussing a new plan, and to sit back for a little bit, as they would discuss, the data that they received from the Nomu. As this is when the rest of the pro heroes arrived to help out with the cleanup of the villains who had been defeated by Class 1A, of course. Akuma and Liebe would smile. Not half bad for our first fight. Liebe then slaps his head and puts his arm around him. Yeah, but you forgot one thing. Oh, and what's that? We have weapons, you idiot. We could have just sliced it to pieces. Akuma would then facepalm, as does Liebe, as he would start laughing. They would then regroup with the rest of the students and explain everything. Well, not everything, just essentially who Liebe is and how he and Akuma are sort of like brothers. The class then thinks it's cool, but here is where the school will be shut down for a couple days, and once it reopens, class will resume as usual. As Akuma walks in with Liebe on his shoulder, he sits down and thinks about their teacher. There's no way he could come back and teach with all the injuries that he has. But as soon as they say this, Aizawa walks into the room with bandages all over his body. The rest of the class was then surprised, and Aizawa would then say, "Quiet down, you idiots. You may already know this, but the UA Sports Festival is coming up, and all of you will be participating." Ida is the first to stand up and ask about the security situation, and he proceeds to talk about the villains from before that could invade again. Aizawa reassured him that the sports festival will have pro heroes all surrounding it, guarding, and attending it, as no villain would even think to show up, as they have no chance to win. Well, All villains except for him, he would think, as he then thinks to All for One, I don't know if Aizawa's ever fought All for One, but I guess I would whoa, whoa, I would understand that he may have heard stories about it from like news reports or All Might, but I'm not sure if he actually ever like encountered him before. So now we would get to the portion, well actually, everyone would then want to excel in the sports festival, and they try to think outside of the box by using their quirks, as that was the advice they were given, as he would then leave the room to go to a meeting to talk about the villains that had attacked the school. And the day would go on as usual, and when the lunch bell rings, Akuma gets up with Liebe on his shoulder. As he slides the door open, he sees a bunch of students that now stand outside his class. Who are you guys? One boy with purple hair then stepped up. We're Class 1B. In this festival, we plan to take your spots in Class 1A. Liebe, who is on his shoulder, then begins to laugh at the group, causing Akuma to do the same. Wow, good luck with that. But I plan to go all out to get sponsors from hero agencies, as this is my chance to get where I need to get in life. And I'll do it for everyone I love. A black aura then begins to surround Akuma, as he then walks through the group of students with a determined look on his face. Days would go by as we now get to the UA Sports Festival. As Class 1A sits in their waiting room, Todoroki walks over to Akuma, and he speaks to him. I'll beat you here and now. Even though Todoroki knows that he has no connection to All Might, he has heard his father speak about the quirk of Izuku and how it is rather strange, and it's more villainous than a hero quirk, which kind of angers him that his father would bring him up. The rest of the class is either nervous or pumped up. As they would walk out, the crowd begins to go crazy as President Mike begins the announcements of each group of students or each class. They get to the podium where Midnight would stand, as she would ask Bakugo to give a few inspiring words to everyone. And here is where he says the same thing as usual that puts a target on the back of Class 1A. Akuma then looks at the sky and then back down at Liebe, who is on his shoulder. We have to do good to become stronger so that we can defeat him. I already know that Izuku, so just make sure to save the transformation until you really need it. You still have access to the other forms and small fragments of my power, so use those instead. Akuma nods as the first event will be chosen. It was an obstacle course, and it would be a race between all students. Akuma nods, knowing that he can't hold back in the first event, and as all the students make it to the starting line, Akuma summons his grimoire, and he makes it smaller so that Liebe could hold it while on his shoulder. The horn then sounds as most of the students will begin taking off, as Akuma speeds past many of them with a black aura surrounding him. A 0-point robot would appear in front of him, but the boy summons his blade from the book and slices it in half, causing it to fall back on the students who were behind him. And he continues on forward as he cuts through many of the robots that stood in his way, and once he gets to the part that has the rocks. Actually, I don't know how to describe this part, as I don't remember the name of it. You guys know what I'm talking about. Where the rocks, it was like a big cliff, but it had multiple rocks and like, I'd say like wires that you could go across. I have no idea what the event is called. So he releases his transformation once he reaches it. People then begin to catch up to him, but using all his strength, he would launch his sword to the other side, and holding two hands out, he then uses a new spell that allows him to teleport to wherever his blade is. Everyone who was still crossing then looks at Akuma with shock as he picks up the blade and he's now across. Bakugo and Todoroki were right behind him as he would reach the mines. Akuma wants to come in the top 5, so Bakugo and Todoroki would pass him, as he doesn't really have a drive to come in first, but he knows he has to come in the top 5 to get noticed by the hero agencies. So he kind of slows down his pace and he lets them go ahead, as Todoroki would pass Bakugo coming in first, Bakugo second, and Izuku third. He could have come in first, but you know what I just said. And he keeps his stamina and all his other spells hidden. All the other students would regroup at the podium with Midnight, who reveals the next event as a cavalry battle. People start to make teams, and more people actually come up to Akuma since he doesn't have the most points on his back. But for simplicity's sake, let's say he makes the same team as usual. For those who don't know or may have forgotten, this team will consist of Izuku, Liebe, of course, because he's sitting on his shoulder, Uraraka, Mei Hatsume, and Tokoyami, or Dark Shadow. Akuma and Liebe make a perfect plan to attack all the other teams. Doing this will grant them a lot of small point headbands that will eventually lead to a lot of overall points. Akuma assumes that Todoroki and Bakugo's team will be going head to head to see who can get the most points, but he knows he just needs to pass on through in the top 5 again, as the cavalry battle would begin and Akuma's team rushes forward towards the weaker groups. And I'm actually not sure how these quirks would actually go together, as he has Dark Shadow and Negation, as I think it will be a deadly combo, which would lead to their team, well, coming in 3rd place behind Todoroki, who will most likely lose his headband with Bakugo so focused on them. And since Bakugo can use his explosions to stay off of the ground, I think it'll be easier for him to take the headband. Next event is revealed to be one-on-one fights in a tournament-like bracket. The first match of the first round will be Izuku versus Shinso. Akuma looks at the tournament bracket and wonders who Shinso is, as the purple-haired boy from before will then appear next to him and begin speaking as he tells him that he's Shinso. Liebe looks at the kid and speaks up. Hey Izuku, his quirk won't work on you, so just go all out. You can end the battle with your physical abilities alone. Akuma nods while heading to his waiting room. Class 1A sits with Class 1B as they talk about the winner of this fight, and Akuma's classmates reveal how he's been holding back a lot, as the students from Class B wouldn't believe them until Froppy explained how he has a power that allows him to fight alongside the #1 hero, even if it was for just a couple seconds. This sends fear and doubt to the Class 1B students, who are wondering about the rest of the team. Could they be monsters like him? Akuma walks out and the crowd roars, and back at the orphanage that he lives at, they would be watching on their TV, holding hands, hoping that he would win the match. And so, tries to use his quirk, but as Liebe stated before, it just wouldn't work on him. Akuma smiles, running at Shinso, as this would catch him off guard, and because he closed the distance, in a matter of seconds actually. A powerful punch then knocks Shinso to the ground and leaves him gasping for air. Akuma looks down and then picks him up as he throws him back into the center of the arena, as he tells Shinso to fight him without using his quirk, and Shinso declares that this is unfair because Akuma is still using his. Akuma smiles while telling him that this is just a strength from working out, as if he was to use his quirk, he would kill him. So Shinso in anger runs towards Akuma, who would dodge and tripped him so that he fell out the arena, as Izuku will be declared the winner. And he tries to go help Shinso get up, but he slaps his hand away, as this is when he goes back up to sit with the rest of his students, while his classmates, and Akuma would notice that Ida would leave to go talk to his brother, or the person who called in regards of his brother and the hero killer. But you all know that we'll get into that in a later arc. So, the rest of the matches would go the same, and we get to the second round matches, which are shown, and the first one will be Akuma versus Todoroki. Class 1A students wish both of them luck, and Akuma thanks them while heading to his waiting room. This is when he bumps into Endeavor, as the pro hero tells him he's impressed with his negation quirk, but it's more villainous. It's more villain. I don't know. That's not a word. It's more like a villain's quirk than a hero's quirk. But time and time again, he's been proven wrong by him. So, he's proud to say that he's waiting on him to become a hero, and maybe he'll sponsor him at his agency with his son. Akuma then thinks about it, but he tells him that he won't go easy on his son. Akuma would then think about this, and he would say, hold on. No, wait. I said that completely wrong. Endeavor. I took a big pause. My fault. We're about to get back into it. Endeavor would say to not go easy on Todoroki. And Akuma shrugs, saying that this fight will be the same to him, and he'll take it as a win. Endeavor wouldn't believe him, as then Akuma tells Endeavor to fight him right here and now. The pro hero gets angered by this and goes to strike at Akuma, who dodges and puts him in a negation zone. Since you're so eager to see what your son is going to deal with, go ahead and try to use your quirk here. Endeavor tries to shoot flames at him, but nothing, and this is when he was hit in the face by a punch from Akuma. The boy then released the Dark Zone and walked past the pro hero to go to the arena. As Todoroki and Akuma's eyes met, the fight would begin. Akuma stood proud while dodging the ice of Todoroki. Each time it was sent, it was immediately destroyed by a black ball or a couple of them that stayed around Akuma. Think of these as truth-seeking orbs from Naruto, as this was one of his new spells as well. My fault if my chair crack was loud, I don't know what happened. Akuma gets close to Todoroki, who then tries to use his quirk, but he can't because of how close they were. And remember that little small aura of negation that I said was around him? That also affects his opponents when in close range with them. He's then hit in the face and sent back, as Akuma smiles while looking at Todoroki, who doesn't have an answer for his power. Akuma then tells him to go all out from this moment on, as he knows that Todoroki has another quirk that he could use. Todoroki refuses, as he then sends more ice out at Akuma, who isn't affected at all. Akuma then summons his blade. Thanks to Tokuyami, I figured out another spell, or it was unlocked. So, how about this? Negation Warriors, arise. Akuma stabs his sword into the arena, cracking it in multiple places, as these very same cracks would leak a dark aura, as it would then cause shadow soldiers, or Akuma clones, to come out, as they were completely black, and all these clones would attack Todoroki, who tries to defend himself to his best of his ability. And while they attacked, Akuma talked to him about, basically the same speech that he was given in the original, but more calmly and clearly, as basically about how quirks are their own once they have them. It's not like parents can control how they use the quirks, after all. Akuma, after his long speech, then sees the flames of Todoroki coming his way, as Akuma releases clones and he blocks the flames while smiling. Let's do this then, as he would transform into a devil, rushing at Todoroki. Instead of using his negation quirk, he relies solely on his physical abilities and how they were boosted by being in this devil-like form, only to make it more fun. Akuma is then hit by ice and fire, but he continues to punch and kick Todoroki, who is switching to offense from defense very quickly, as the two will be enjoying their battle. But all good things must come to an end. Todoroki got ready to shoot more flames, but nothing happened, as he looked back up to see that Akuma was right in his face. Using a negation blast, he then sent Todoroki out of the arena to the stadium walls, and for a moment, everything stood quiet, until everyone erupted in cheer, screaming out Akuma's name. You could hear from the stands, Izuku! Everybody be cheering. He smiles, waving to everyone, as he then goes to sit back down with his teammates until the final match would be announced, as it would be Bakugo versus Izuku, as both fighters head down and get ready. Akuma doesn't want to hold back, and he plans to end the fight right from the get-go. As Bakugo launches himself towards Akuma, he then falls to the ground, realizing that he's in a negation zone. As Bakugo remembers this from the hero versus villain practice and goes in to fight him hands-on, knowing that's all he can do. But Akuma is just too strong for him, and he slams him to the ground. After that, Akuma gets on top of Bakugo and punches his face over and over again. I've waited for this for so long. Everything you've done to me, I can let it all out right here and now. Akuma hits Bakugo's face until he falls unconscious, to the point where he releases the zone and is declared the winner. Awards would later be presented to them by All Might, as everyone in Japan will be watching this, and This included the villains who we saw from before, who lurked in the shadows, planning their next attack. So, right after the sports festival ended, well, the next day was really normal. All of Class 1A entered their homeroom class talking about many things that happened the day before and actually congratulating Akuma and Liebe. This was until Aizawa walked in. The sports festival grants many of you opportunities to work under pro-hero agencies, and those who do exceptionally well in the festival come out with the most requests to work in hero agencies. But if you don't believe me, take a look for yourselves. Aizawa shows them the top students with the most offers, and they all see that Akuma was at the top, which was to be expected. And since I'm not the best with this, I'll be bringing in Midnight to help you all with your hero names. The pro hero walks in, and many of the students get excited. As she walks in though, Akuma looks at Liebe on his shoulder. What should our name be? You idiot, we already have a good enough name. Akuma's hero name would just be Akuma. As the lunch bell rings, All Might would have a note sent to Akuma to come to his office. When he arrived, All Might would ask him what hero agency he was thinking about going to. And Akuma and Liebe really didn't know as they had so many offers, but All Might recommended someone, Gran Torino. He explains how he could help them further master their power and learn how to hold it for longer durations of time during battle. Akuma and Liebe agree, as that's where they'll go since it was recommended by the number one hero after all. A couple days later, we see the two of them standing in front of a building. I'm pretty sure this is it, so let's knock. Liebe shrugs his shoulders while sitting on Akuma's shoulder. They do so, and a small, frail, old man comes to the door. Hey, I'm Akuma, and this is Liebe, my partner. All Might told us to come here. Gran Torino smiles, and then tries to bounce all over the walls, but he can't. You're not half bad, kid. You already negated all of my abilities as soon as you walked into the room. Akuma smiles and then asked him, how can you help us master our devil form? The training would then begin, as Akuma uses his devil transformation. The power of it shook the building entirely, and slightly scared Gran Torino. This kid is something else, isn't he? About 30 seconds would go by, and the two would split and come out of the transformation. I see. Liebe, how do you feel while in this transformation? Do you think you have enough control over the one body that you all are sharing? Liebe nods. Well, no, then he shakes his head, believing that he doesn't have enough, and Gran Torino looks at Akuma or Izuku. Stand up on the table and then fall. Akuma lets himself fall, and Liebe moves on instinct to go and catch him, but Akuma saves himself before he can do so. There's your problem. You two have to work together better. You're too used to doing things on your own, so it's harder for you to rely on Liebe when in these types of situations. But it also seems that, Izuku, you aren't quite focused with how you're utilizing the quirk. It's not just a negation quirk, but in many ways you've already shown already. So try to think outside the box when in that form, and don't think about holding it for a long amount of time. Actually, no, that's what you came here to do. Think about holding it for a very long time limit, but don't try to use all of the power at once. Try to pace yourself, if you would say. So, for the next couple of days, they would train and work hard so that each of them is ready to master this ability. Until one night they would go out with the old, well, wasn't he retired? I think he was. So they go out with the retired hero, and as the three ride in the train cart, they realize that something is wrong. Then, a Nomu jumps into the cart and tries to attack some of the citizens within it. It suddenly is entrapped in a black spider web. Not so fast. We then look back at Akuma, who has his grimoire out using a new spell, as Liebe jumps off of his shoulder, becoming bigger, and kicks the Nomu out of the cart and down into the streets. The two look down, and first, Akuma would jump down, closing his eyes, letting himself fall. As he does, Liebe reaches out to him, and then grabs him. The Nomu on the streets then tries to grab another hero from his blind side, but he's sliced in half by a black sword. Gran Torino catches up to Akuma and then says, "Not half bad, kids, but there's much more we need to do here." This is when we get to see the two of them in a more, well, a better looking form, you could say. It's a complete devil transformation. Kind of think of it like What's a good example I can use from Black Clover? Think of it as the transformations that the Dark Triad uses. This is more akin to what it is. So, this time, Akuma has 4 wings and claws for hands, but instead of the gray color, there's fragments of red all over his body, along with his eyes, as he tilts his head back to Gran Torino with a smile and fangs for teeth. Yeah, you're right, but I have a friend to help save, so I figured you could cover this area by yourself. Akuma then disappears in a black flash, and on the other side of the city, where Todoroki was, he appears. Endeavor was fighting a Nomu when it became trapped in spider webs, then sliced into pieces. Hey Todoroki, let's go help out Ida. Todoroki looked around but couldn't find the voice that he heard. And then a hand touched his shoulder as the two would vanish. Ida and another pro hero were losing against the hero killer Stain, and as Stain held his blade to his throat, he would say, "It's over, you so-called hero." A slimmer katana-like blade now blocked his own for some reason, but it was completely black. Stain tilted his head up to now look into the eyes of Akuma and Todoroki, defending Ida. "What are you two doing here?" Ida would say. "Don't worry about that. You just know that we're gonna win this fight now. Negation zone." Todoroki instantly notices that this negation zone was much different to what he saw before. It's not dark at all. It actually looks like nothing in the sky has actually changed. As it all looks as, wait a minute. Todoroki then shoots flames at the hero killer, causing him to flip onto a light post. How can I use my quirk here, Akuma? "I'm allowing you to, but it requires a lot of focus right now. Luckily, I have a spell to let me know where you all are as well, as that's one of the requirements for this." Todoroki then looks at the katana that Akuma was holding and watches it slowly fade away. Not bad," he would say while looking at his hand. "It was just a copy after all. I wonder." Akuma teleports away and appears right in front of Stain and grabs his blade, vanishing, standing right back next to Todoroki and Ida. I wonder if I could just... Blade is completely covered in darkness as Akuma would smile. "Yeah, I thought so. Give me my sword back, brat. Hey Liebe, you want to try something new?" The two would then split apart and walk side by side with Todoroki in the middle of them, as Liebe would be holding his original blade and Akuma holds the katana. Todoroki sends more ice at the hero killer and they run towards Stain. The hero killer pulls out small knives and tries to cut them, but they trade spots and block the attacks. Akuma then tries to slice upward on Stain, but he manages to dodge just in time, backing away as he thinks about how Shigaraki did mention something about these two. When you would then see the smile on Akuma's face. "You're up, Ida, and don't you dare miss." From behind Stain, Ida appears and swings his leg. All of his anger, hatred, and determination were focused onto this attack. However, I'll be changing this scene a lot actually. As Ida's leg was about to make contact, the Nomu grabbed it and then broke his leg. Ida then screamed out in pain as he was teleported away by Akuma, as he now sat on a rooftop. "Hey Todoroki, you take the hero killer? Me and Liebe, well, actually Liebe go with them just to make sure, and I'll fight the Nomu by myself and hold it off." The other two nod, and Akuma then kicks the Nomu far away, and he pushes it further back with a negation slash. The Nomu was a little stronger, and he could tell, as the negation slash didn't really work on him at first. As Akuma told himself that all he needed to do was hold it off long enough. Back with the other two, Todoroki uses his ice to get in close to the hero killer, and then, as he was about to get hit, he switches places with Liebe, and the devil headbutts him and pushes him away. Stain has no time to focus as he's forced to dodge more flames from the young hero. Liebe watched, and then his grimoire began to glow. Well, I'll be damned. Looks like another new spell. Todoroki starts to get tired, and then sees Liebe standing next to him. "Go all out with this one, and I'll do the same." Stain jumps away, as then he was caught in a black spider web of negation. Red and black flames now spiral towards the hero killer, knocking him out on impact and leaving him with severe scars. And let's say, what could he survive? Let's say a first-degree burn. Akuma was now trading blows, going blow for blow with the Nomu, but not gaining any ground at all. Well, that was until Endeavor appeared and burned it to ashes. Good job, kid, but you're too cocky. This is when the flying Nomu tried to grab Endeavor's arm and rip it off, but it was burned to flames. Wait, no, that didn't make sense. It was burned to ashes by Liebe. You seem to have the same problem as him. The Hosu City, arc or conclusion will be the same, with the students getting in trouble for acting on their own, but shortly return back to UA days later. The next day, everyone makes fun of Bakugo for his hairstyle and then begin to talk about their internships. The school day is normal until we get to All Might's portion of the class, where he introduces a hero-like obstacle course where the students will have to move through the area as fast as possible using their quirks. Akuma, Ishido, Sero, and Ida were up first to try it. It starts, and Akuma summons his katana, throwing it all the way to where All Might was standing, forcing the pro hero to actually back up a little bit and make sure it doesn't cut him. The pro hero looks down at it, confused for a moment, and then sees Akuma and Liebe now holding the blade in front of him. Great job, you two. Everything seems normal, and the students eventually get to prepare for their final exams, realizing that many of them have to catch up and study. Their principal, however, was making a change to the exams as well, and this is where Bakugo and Akuma were paired up to go against All Might. When the test will begin, the two here don't say a word to each other, and Akuma takes a turn down an alley, thinking this would be a shortcut. All Might jumps down in front of him and tries to hit him, but to his surprise, his hand or his fist goes directly through him. Negation Playground. Dark clones of Liebe and Akuma appear all around All Might and then begin to swing their blades. The pro hero dodged one after another and turned his head, blocking another attack. As he does so, his arm got a little bit skinnier, as One for All. Yeah, is that the quirk? It's One for All. I was about to say All for One, but I don't know why. It was being countered. So it looks like I'll have to dodge all of these. All Might maneuvers around through the dark area, but his attackers, he's caught in a web, and a clone of Bakugo appears, sending flames at All Might. That would send him out of the playground into a building. The real Bakugo hears this and turns that way, getting excited. Akuma and Liebe now stand over the pro hero, pointing both their swords at him. Before anything could be said, an explosion then hit them, sending rubble into them. Out of my way, demons. This is my win. The small interruption was enough time, or it gave All Might enough time to recover, so he slams his fist into Bakugo, launching him through the ceiling. Akuma looks over at Liebe as the two of them would transform. As All Might was beating down on Bakugo, who was trying his best to fight back, Akuma appears in his devil transformation, blocking his fist. So, young Izuku, you're ready to get serious? Yeah, I am, but first, from behind him, a clone of Liebe would then jump out of his body. If that makes sense, from his black wings, a clone of Liebe would jump out of his body, and Akuma kicks the pro hero away, and then grabs Bakugo. The clone of Liebe would throw a sword all the way to the exit gate, and, Akuma teleports himself and Bakugo there using the sword. The students are then told, the rest of the exams for the students will go the same, and then they are told about the summer training camp and decide to go shopping the following weekend. Akuma wears a shirt that's let me just restart. Akuma wears a shirt so that Liebe can sit in his pocket. As they walk around, someone sneaks up on them. On instinct, Akuma teleports him away to a beach that's very far away, and it's quite dirty actually. Shigaraki was confused until he saw the hero killer's sword at this very same beach. This was just an emergency protocol that Akuma had started doing, and this is where the story is going to take a dramatic change from the original timeline. Akuma and Liebe appear on the beach as well. First, we'll take out Yu, then will take out All For One. Shigaraki is angered by this speech and tries to rush them, but is quickly put in a negation zone as he wouldn't realize it since he hasn't seen it in a while. And then, well, he's bound by clones that held him still. We don't have time to mess around with you. Akuma looks over at Liebe and hands him the dark katana. Liebe thinks about his past life and without a second thought, slices the throat of Shigaraki, killing him. But as they release the dome, a man now stands in front of them wearing a black suit as he would start to clap and start to smile as well. My greatest experiment has exceeded my most recent. Well now, it's about time you two come back to me, don't you think? All For One then uses a stronger version of Izuku's Inko's quirk to draw them in close, which gives Akuma or Izuku a weird feeling. Forget about your past, as you now work for me, and I have a special job for you two, as the new general of the League of Villains. Liebe and Izuku's memories are erased and filled with fake ones where they see All For One as a hero who saved them, which causes them to obey him as well. Weeks would go by as it would be reported missing that he was gone, and the school takes note of that but still goes on their trip anyway. When the night arrives, they all play that game. Well, at night they play the game, and this is when the villains would start to appear as usual, and leading them was Izuku in his demon state, which seemed a lot stronger, and it resonated a terrible presence over all of them. All the UA students are confused as they begin to call out to him, but he pays no mind at all. It's as if he doesn't even know them. And then he would say, "Kill them all, and leave none of them alive but one." As you all know the mission, Dabi sends out blue flames throughout the entire forest, accompanied by Izuku's black flames. And another villain, or the muscle villain, cracks the ground by stomping on it. And the students split up as they would try to cover more ground and take out some of the villains. But it's no use. They couldn't use any of their quirks for some reason. And this is when Todoroki realized what Akuma was doing. It's the same thing as when they fought the hero killer, which means they are in serious trouble and they need to get out of the range of the zone. Bakugo, though, rushes in blind and tries to grab Izuku, but he's stabbed by him. These young heroes are such idiots. They really make me laugh, you know that? Bakugo punches him in the face, but he doesn't flinch at all, and then another sword would pierce his body, which caused him to cough up more blood before being dropped to the ground. Is this really what this silly school has taught you all? All you can do is run away and run in blindly to fight? What a waste of talents. You should have just become villains. The rest of the UA students managed to run out of the zone and be able to use their quirks against to defend themselves. Aizawa and other pro heroes who were there go out to help defend the students firsthand, which leads Izuku to killing a child that was running around by himself. This kid was Kota. Aizawa tries to cancel out his quirk, but nothing happens, leading to flames scorching his right side, and then his left arm is cut off by a black blade. For a teacher, you move quite slow. Aizawa looks down and is truly scared of the person that Akuma is now, as he knew he'd always be trouble. Aizawa here would actually die, and now Izuku goes back over to Bakugo, who is laying on the ground, barely alive. They capture him and they use Liebe to heal his injuries. This was truly devastating for UA. How could this happen in only one night? They completely lost to the villains with one of their teachers dying, and Izuku taking another one of their students. Overall, I say this leads to the pro heroes planning their attack on the villain base. However, when they arrived to save Bakugo, Izuku wasn't there. I think All Might has the same battle as before with All For One, but as his final punch was about to land, Akuma would appear and he'd stop it. Goodbye, symbol of peace. All Might's head is then sliced off by his blade that was held in another hand, as he then felt the hand of All For One on his shoulder. Great work, Izuku. And the boy would push off the hand, and All For One would only chuckle as he watches him walk over to the head of the fallen hero and lifts it up so that all of Japan could see especially the helicopters that were surrounding the area. We will now enter our age of villains, with me at the front lines as a symbol of fear. All for One stands behind Izuku, smiling as his plan was now complete. I know it's a pretty dark ending, but this is where I plan to end this what if. There's not much left to go over, and Izuku would take over, All for One and Izuku would take over Japan with ease. We could see a future fight between Izuku and Mirio, who we know has One for All. Yeah, that's what I just had a brain fart right there. Who has One for All. But we all know how it would end regardless. If you do enjoy series like this and you want to see more of them, make sure to like the video and subscribe, as I make content like this all the time, and subscribing will make sure that you guys don't miss it when I do upload it. Also, comment down your favorite part of this series and comment down what I should do for my next My Hero series. I hope you all have a great day, night, or evening, as this is Zero, and I'll catch you all on the next one.